Before the internship even started, the project that caught my eye was the Education and Curriculum Initiative because I immediately knew a way I could contribute. Rather than developing lesson plans on specific historical topics or events, my mind went to the best figure I had contact with that could speak on the intersection of educating and Asian Americans. This was my most recent Chinese school teacher, who was the person I thought of not only because of his experience, but also because of how he taught his classes with such ease and enthusiasm. I asked him several questions about what he thought about the current issues with regards to Asian American history and current education systems. I was hoping he might elaborate on what administrations could do to work towards a higher degree of inclusiveness, along with his experience as an educator, but I got a lot more than I was expecting. After the call, it seemed like the best way to make use of this information would be to apply towards an adult development workshop. The mission of such a workshop would be to give participants a better idea of how to conduct themselves in life or in the classroom so as to lead to higher levels of cultural inclusion. The intended audience for such a workshop would be either adults interested in learning about the position of Asian Americans today or current educators who would benefit from knowing how to approach Asian studies and lesson plans themselves. For the average person interested in learning about the position of Asian Americans, the workshop would at least give them something to think about and be aware of. All this while keeping in mind that the long term goal, beyond individual workshops and lesson plans, is to instill a degree of understanding in upcoming generations so that the current issues we face can be gradually lessened. With that background knowledge from someone who has already seen success in fostering such understanding, people would simply continue not to take action or perpetuate failing to truly see another culture. As for the actual content of the workshop, I would like to summarize the insights I gathered. There's lots to mention, but two themes stand out as the ones to focus on the most. First, it is Asian Americans' responsibility to show their other ethnic peers that they are not foreigners and have something to offer as good, honest people as well. Since historical and present day animosity stems from US China relations, Asian Americans are opening themselves up to attack if they remain silent and isolated. As has been found in research on stereotyping Asians, higher concentrations of Asian Americans in certain areas such as California, New York, and Hawaii lead to some having less direct contact with Asians. This leads to less interactions, which means less relationships, and ultimately their perceptions are more likely to be cultivated by the media. This is all the more reason that Asians should be frequently active and friendly in their communities to show mutual care towards neighbors and the environment. After some trust and rapport has been established, there can begin the sharing of thousands of years of rich culture and history. This is all without a political agenda or ulterior motive, but simply to work through recreation centers and areas to gather for its own benefits. Second, we need to make sure that the chosen topics are acceptable to both the East and West, otherwise, it will lead to even more of the perception of being foreign. For all the beauty and cultural significance of our works and stories, just promoting pieces of cultural heritage is not meaningful. For a cultural education to be influential, we have to find common ground and match American values. For it to be effective, all you need to start is to make a positive experience out of it. On the community level, this could be as easy as having Chinese New Year pastries so that people will have more awareness and preferences when it comes to a large part of the culture. The education has to be complete, not partial, meaning we should cover the nuances as well. For example, Dragon Boat Festival, Sticky Rice Buns, and Moon Festival. In schools, it's not as common to see Asian culture taught beyond just the languages. On the part of the teachers, they also have to be aware of what will be easily accepted by Americans. We can start with more progressive private or bilingual schools that have such cultural class offerings already. Beyond these two main themes, there's also the possibility of going to other topics, such as the dissipation of Asian culture over time with each consecutive generation, and the reality that there are currently many gender and race issues also being addressed. So at the moment, it's quite hard to place as much emphasis on spreading understanding between different cultures as much as we should. Using all of these insights, we could build about a half-day workshop session going into examples of each theme and instances where they are both properly and improperly executed. The participants would be open to any person interested in learning about the current state of Asian American affairs, including educators who would also benefit from it. We could start with something of a lecture so that the context is laid for the relevance of the content. We would also be sure to incorporate interactive aspects such as discussion or putting the practices being taught into action. For example, giving all present a bag of Asian snacks that they could try if they would like, So, the workshop itself would be a way to try to find some common ground and lessen the feeling of otherness that some might feel towards Asians. Like my teacher also mentioned, it's not easy to foster mutual understanding, but the methods don't have to be complicated. It will just take some time and focusing on the right things. Thank you.